I love romance anime. Some people clearly don't, or at least some aspects of it. Something I hate about most shonen romance anime nowadays is the girl always looks unique and stands out, but the dude always just has short black hair and sometimes glasses. No other remarkable features. Yes, because the primary demographic for shonen romance are ordinary dudes, the same way the primary demographic for shoujo romance are ordinary girls. It's meant to be relatable to the demographic that enjoys the stories. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. There are 4 anime that you cited here, but I have no idea why you cited them because the guys here are only ordinary on the surface. I don't know much about the first and the last. They are You and I are polar opposites and Shikimori's not just a cutie. I don't know much about them. I do, however, know the second and the third. The second one is Dandadan, which isn't primarily a romance anime, but there is romance. Okarun only looks ordinary. Him being a nerdy guy that loves aliens and gets bullied for his interest slowly diminishes as the show goes on. He becomes more heroic, more assertive, more manly even. He sheds his nerdy boy exterior throughout the show, and his progression is one of the reasons why the anime is very compelling and why Momo starts to genuinely love him. Their romance and chemistry don't just come out of nowhere. The third one, My Dress-Up Darling, is even more baffling because Gojo is just as much of a romantic fantasy as Kitagawa. Yes, he's awkward, but he's cute, he's endearing, he's creative, he's artistic, he's kind and responsible. He's not that bad looking too. He's also not the typical nerdy gamer or anime weeb. Kitagawa is. She is a shonen love interest romancing a shoujo love interest. That's why My Dress-Up Darling is so unique and compelling, and why their romantic chemistry works incredibly well. I get your frustration that they look ordinary, but that just shows how you don't understand the shows that you're watching. I would love to discuss more about shoujo and shonen online, especially against these moral guardians that apparently want some. Misogyny in shonen anime and manga are so prevalent and normalized, but no one's ready for that conversation. Well, I am ready for that conversation, but I don't think you are, considering that you locked the replies. Maybe don't ask for a conversation if you don't want one. That, and start taking some responsibility for what you say online. Speaking of romance, here's a game franchise that lets you do that. It's been a while since I see a Persona discourse. Wait, it's only been a week? There are options with characters 18 plus and he picked a 15-year-old? Okay, dude. Apparently, The Weeknd plays Persona 5, and he chose to romance Futaba at one point. That's alright. I personally see Futaba as a sister for Ren, but it's not an invalid romance option to me. It is hypocritical to say all that when you express your love to Yusuke, who is also a high schooler. If anything, Yusuke is more fitting to be with Futaba, considering the amount of bickering they had. That's my OTP right there. I should preface that I don't think dating the adults is okay either. The people are spreading misinformation about me, chat. You literally said there are options with characters 18 plus, so that implies those are the better options. What was the literacy rate for Americans again? If you're an adult, you shouldn't romance anyone, in my opinion. Don't get this twisted, chat. Well, I guess I'll hang out with Ryuji during Valentine's Day, right? The funny thing about Persona 5 is that my romance choices for Ren depend on the perspective. In terms of the most fitting for Ren, I think Makoto is best. In terms of who I personally would choose if I am Ren, I chose Haru. The game thinks An might be the canonical lover, considering that she has a lover arcana. And then there's Persona 3 Fuka. No consideration, no argument, just Fuka all the way, Fuka everything. Romancing minors when an adult is playing is odd, but romancing adults when playing a minor is actually criminal. Hello, police? I romance Kawakami on Persona 5.
If you can't do the time, don't do the crime. Okay, time's up. Now get out.
Here's one fandom that apparently has loads of criminals. Madoka Magica. It is the ultimate magical girl deconstruction dark fantasy anime, showing how being a magical girl absolutely sucks, especially when you have this monstrosity accompanying you. We're talking about the tourists and the fandoms this time. This entire fandom is infested with young anime girl lovers. Holy crap, I forgot I'm sharing a fandom with criminals! Sorry, but no. The good news is you do not share a fandom with criminals, fortunately. They do absolutely love them young anime middle schoolers. Not just them, actually. The official license holders absolutely love putting Madoka and the Magical Girls gang in swimsuits in both internal and collaboration media. I love how the tourists can absolutely tolerate literal middle schoolers being tortured psychologically, mentally, and even physically throughout the show, but them being in swimsuits is way too far, right? There's nothing wrong with torturing fictional middle schoolers for the sake of our own entertainment and character development, but putting them on swimsuits is just too far, guys. We're gonna keep talking about these clowns, are we? Just block people and move on, in my opinion, is quite harmful. Nope, it is actually quite healthy for everyone involved. The less people be online, the better. If you see a pro shipper in your fandom and simply block them without notifying others, minors could be swept into that mess and exposed to things they shouldn't be exposed to. Those minors shouldn't be on social media to begin with, especially dealing with topics of fiction discourse in general. Where are their parents? Why are they letting them roam social media without supervision? You can't be over 17-year-old and use the argument separating fiction from reality non-ironically. Yes, I can. Kids can separate fiction from reality. If you can't do it, you need to seek professional help. If art has a real impact, that impact can be both positive and negative. And somehow, because of that, your conclusion is, let's treat all art as if they have negative impacts. Denying it implies treating art as something without influence or value. That's not the problem. The problem is you are treating art as if they all have negative impact, and the same kind of impact you're experiencing. It's not, and you're delusional to think otherwise. In another day of fiction discourse, this person decided to use Gemini to argue against adult content featuring young anime girls. Nice of you to use Gemini, because I use Gemini too these days. Yes, adult anime content featuring young characters is strictly illegal in about 30 to 45 countries. How many countries are there in this world? 190? 195? So, at most, that's about 15 to 23% of the countries around the world that think adult anime content featuring young characters is illegal. And the rest of the 77 to 85% cares for real children, not fictional ones. Thank the lords for that. Gemini cited the whole Middle East, which is stupid because they ban adult content in general, not just the ones that have an anime style. My country, Indonesia, does that too. They are about as religious and moralistic as you can get. Supposedly. And those countries have way more issues than 18 plus content, I can assure you of that. And then there's the Commonwealth, Canada, UK, Australia, and New Zealand. These countries are an absolute joke for not just the restriction of adult content, but also for freedom of expression. Europe is there, same thing, and as for Asia, you have South Korea and Singapore. They also have issues with free expression. Do you know what you don't see there? America and Japan. Those two countries are pretty major in this discourse, and they do not consider sexual content featuring young anime girls as illegal. Also, even in the countries that make them illegal, they are generally not enforced. Here in Indonesia, adult content is technically illegal, but the police couldn't be bothered arresting people for it because 1, it's a waste of taxpayer money, 2, that would mean they have to arrest themselves, and 3, even if the popos are all squeaky clean, they wouldn't act on any perceived crime unless the case genuinely bothers people. That usually happens if it goes viral, like that time Bonnie Blue came to Bali and quite literally advertising prostitution of herself, where she got away with it with a fine for that, because I guess most of the fine got to servicing the cops. Let's just say that the famous NWA song also applies here. Bottom line, if the AI is smarter than you at making the arguments, you already lost. It's nice to bring back the classic moral guardians, right? Porn is bad. Yes, just another day of this kind of take, right? Christians should not be willingly watching and supporting pornography. Is that the reason why some YouTubers that have gotten full Christians stopped making videos that are related to 18 plus content hooplas? My viewers are starting to notice that trend of anime YouTubers suddenly going political and right-wing and Christian. I swear, politics absolutely ruined everything. Wish no one supported pornography, but we live in a fallen and sinful world, so we can only encourage others not to engage with it because it only brings misery. Well, I don't know about you personally, but I don't find misery out of watching adult content myself. I personally find them entertaining, but I guess that makes me a filthy sinner, right? Also, this person has a profile picture of Arcuate from the game Tsukihime, a visual novel featuring adult content. But it's not just Arcuate, it's the Neko version, Neko Arc, that is somehow way more popular and became her own separate character somehow. She technically came from Melty Blood, which is not an adult visual novel game, so I guess that makes him in the clear, right? No, change your profile picture to Jesus or something. And that's all for the video today. Here's a cat. Huge thanks to all the wonderful sponsors this week. You're all fantastic. Don't forget to check out my previous videos here. Click the like button, comment, subscribe, join the YouTube membership, leave some tips, just $1 down below. And thanks for watching.